from your statement is that you're referring to what was very famously called the Naram Dal, Garam Dal, or the good cop or the bad cop, or these strategies are very well known. Of course, these are political strategies. These may be even geopolitical strategies. Now it seems that the same logic has been extended to the RSS. Mind you, even the former Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Mukund Naravne, who has seconded Dattatreya Hosabole's comments.
And lastly, just to disagree with on fact with Sajjan, it's not that being right-wing was seen as anti-national during the Congress era. Let's not forget that Morarji Desai was seen as a right-wing figure, Sardar Patel was seen as a right-wing figure, Rajendra Prasad was seen as a right-wing figure, and Rajaji was seen as a right-wing figure. I don't think that being right-wing was anti-national.
You are confusing Nehruvian phase with Indira Gandhi phase. I said late 60s and 70s.
Hello and welcome. You're watching me, Sanket Upadhyay, on the Federal. The show is called AI with Sanket. This is the AI of news, because news in India today requires not artificial but analytical intelligence. A big shift in the position of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh is here. The party General Secretary, the RSS's General Secretary, Dattatreya Hosabale, in an interview to the Press Trust of India, has said that there should be people-to-people contact and conversation. The room for dialogue must remain open while we remain firm on issues like terrorism with Pakistan. Now, is this statement a departure from the position that the central government has been taking, that terror and talks, terror and trade cannot go hand in hand? Because Mr. Dattatreya Hosabale seems to suggest that talks and trade and cricket, all these things must carry on. There should be people-to-people contact. And then the most important thing, when anyone else said any such thing, not conforming to the ideology of the BJP and the RSS, was trolled, was thrashed verbally, that you are supporting Pakistan, you're asking for a dialogue at this time, how dare you, in the middle of an Operation Sindoor or in the middle of the Pahalgam attack. On the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor has come this call for dialogue by an RSS functionary. So at a time like this, what really is going to be the response of the central government? Is this a case where the RSS is thinking on its own, which is completely isolated to the way the government may perform, and thus a coincidence? Or is this part of some strategy where the government, perhaps in order to soften any conversation around conversation with Pakistan, has had the RSS to first start talking about it so that the government can then take that forward? What exactly is the truth, and how should one look at a plethora of conversation around the RSS General Secretary's statement? Let's discuss. So what exactly did the RSS want to say, and is this in league and in line with what we tend to hear, or way off the line from what we tend to hear from the government, from the cheerleaders and fans of the government vis-a-vis Pakistan? I have with me two distinguished panelists. Sajjan Kumar is a noted political analyst, and Nikhil Jain, political consultant and an advocate. Thank you to the two gentlemen. We'll first begin with you, Mr. Sajjan Kumar. Dattatreya Hosabale, the senior seasoned person from the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, a key arm of the Bhagwat Modi Association of the RSS BJP machinery. So for him to say something like this in an interview to the Press Trust of India, perhaps it will not be lost on anyone that this is some sort of a strategy shift in the way these things are done or said. And that too on the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor. How do you view his statements?
Let me divide my response in two parts. First, what I feel, and then try to analyze the statement in relation with the RSS and government coming together. One, Dattatreya Hosabale is neither an expert on Pakistan nor on foreign policy. This is one. Two, we also see that earlier among the RSS senior functionaries, there have been a great caution and restraint before issuing any public statement which used to go beyond the core mandate of the RSS. They used to be extremely cautious. And that you find among many of the RSS senior functionaries restrain in from talking to media. That is there. That seems to be changing now, you know. And three, on the matter of Pakistan, there are two ways to see, because he is the Sar Karyawah of the RSS, that is the most powerful executive head of the organization. Mohan Bhagwat is the Sar Sanghchalak, while he is the executive head. And therefore, any statement coming from such a senior functionary with whom the ruling party BJP is having a deep connection tantamounts to what we call as speech act, that their speeches are like actions in the vetting or a recommendation for the action. That is one. Now, on that count, I think this is really not very wiseful, because should we take it seriously? Yes, because he holds the position, and therefore whatever he says can be seen something indicating the change of course even among the government. But let me also caution that we have seen among the top RSS functionaries a trait wherein they are consistently inconsistent, and that's a part of a long-term strategy. I remember around 2020 when one of the senior functionary of RSS, Sunil Ambekar, wrote a book on RSS saying RSS, a vision for 21st century. In the inaugural session, Mohan Bhagwat was presiding, and he said, I am not sure what RSS exactly stands for n number of questions, because we are evolving. So therefore, writing the book, in fact, he took a pun on the book, is really like freezing. So I think RSS long-term strategy has been to be consistently inconsistent. Let me give one instance in that regard. Remember 2015 Bihar election and Mohan Bhagwat statement on reservation. आरक्षण की समीक्षा होनी चाहिए. And thereafter 2019 onward, if you follow his statement, it seems 5,000 साल से these people have been exploited, have been denied, and therefore we cannot fix a timeline for the reservation. So therefore, if you want to decide what RSS exactly stands for, it would be extremely difficult. And I think this is not a casual approach. This is a very methodical approach by the RSS. So therefore, I think.
But what, according to you, is the method? The method, according to you, is the inconsistency.
The method is, what used to be of left. What Lenin said, 2 steps backward and 1 step forward and 2 steps backward, right? Never give a clear indication. This is about the tactics and strategy, So you find that both left and RSS, in terms of organizational approach, except for that they go for the societal ethos, traditional ethos, etc. They embrace it and respect it, while left has a different take. But beyond that, if you see, I do not think that RSS ever stood for defining what is Hindutva. Unlike Savarkar, which was Hindu Mahasabha, RSS is different. Defining what is their take on Muslim question, on Pakistan, on Indian tradition. Do they stand for conservatism, or do they stand against orthodoxy, or do they go for a radical transformation? So you'll find at different juncture, different speech acts are coming, and therefore it all depends upon our convenience, even anti-RSS left and liberals convenience, how you pick. But RSS and consistency are poles apart. This okay. I can say I think
we've got a fair idea of what Mr. Sajjan Kumar has to say about what the RSS has said. However, as you do also say, none of these are just mere utterances marked at confusion. This is There is a method to this. There is a structure to these comments, at least, if nothing else, to start a conversation. Now, Nikhil Jain, I want to come to you now. When a Nirupama Rao Menon, the former foreign secretary, asked for dialogue as the only solution, people to people dialogue as the only solution between India and Pakistan, an entire ecosystem was up in arms. The former foreign secretary was dubbed as anti-national and whatnot. Now the RSS's own big number 2 is saying the exact same thing. Now what will all those in positions of power say? Or all those who were preaching that terror and talks can't go together, what will they say? Because we have a clear idea of what the number 2 in the RSS has to say about dialogue.
Sanket, Sajjan has used a very interesting and a crafty term. Consistently inconsistent is the method of the RSS. Might I say what he really means is that deception and opportunism are the strategies and methods of the RSS, because once they find that a certain thing is not holding political favor, they will completely come and change their view on it. Let's look at reservations. Let's look at the caste system. It was Prime Minister Modi, who himself was an RSS pracharak, who in 2025 says that I'm sorry, who in 2024 says that those asking for a caste census are urban Naxal, and then in 2025 April, just a year later, turns around and says, I'm going to do caste census. And this is exactly the pattern of the RSS and this government when it comes to important ideological issues and also important issues of national security and diplomacy. I personally do agree that dialogue is the only way forward. Let's not forget that Pakistan, for all the Katora jokes we may have on the country, is a nuclear armed state. They have a strong armed force. They have strong armed forces. Of course, not as strong as ours, but strong enough to be enough of a deterrent. That is the reason I will always say that Pakistan and China are two nations you cannot solve with war. You will have to solve with dialogue. And I'm not the only one saying that. The problem becomes when the RSS ecosystem and the government ecosystem want to, present this bravado and this machismo that the prime minister is himself going to go with his 56-inch chest and, ghar mein ghus ke marenge and this and that. Now that they've realized that this is not a strategy which can work, because let's remember what happened after the Pulwama attack. The government carried out Operation Balakot. Did it really change the terror situation in India? No. Article 370 abrogation, did it change terror situation? I would argue no. Some people would say that perhaps there are lesser incidents of terror in Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory, but let's also not forget that the reportage coming out of that place is also very, very constricted. Now let's talk about what happened after Pahalgam. You engage in an Operation Sindoor-like operation. Lot of military commentators said that this was excessive use of force. In order to attack terrorists, you don't bring out the air force. You don't bring out a rocket launcher to a gunfight. But that is what the government of India chose to do. Later on, there were statements by the defense minister wherein it was said that every act of terror would be treated as an act of war. And what happened subsequently? In November, December, you had an attack, a terror attack right outside Red Fort. And usually before this terror attack, whenever a terror attack in India would happen, whether it's a Congress government or a BJP government, the government would jump up and say, oh, Pakistan ne kara hai. Pakistan is behind this. But this time around, the government simply, first, they, declined to admit that this is a terror attack. There were theories going around saying that this might have been an accident. And even later, they were not willing to admit that this was an attack carried out by Pakistan. So this sort of consistently inconsistent methodology of the RSS, and that being followed by the central government, has become really problematic for India's interest. You have to have a clear strategy. You cannot call your opposition or voices that offer an alternate view as anti-national or this or that. Of course, nobody is saying that, Pakistan ke saath jaake aap biryani khaiye, jhappiyan paiye, but at least you'll have to do some sort of dialogue. Without dialogue, such a complex situation will not go away. And thankfully, the RSS is now understanding that. My only question is, will the BJP ecosystem understand that? Because we've seen this, dichotomy and this hypocrisy coexist, wherein one sector of the RSS will say a certain thing, another sector will say another thing. One sector will say that, okay, dialogue is good, and the other sector will say anybody saying dialogue is good is
the idea that I'm getting, Nikhil, from your statement is that you're referring to what was very famously called the Naram Dal, Garam Dal, or the good cop or the bad cop, or these strategies are very well known. Of course, these are political strategies. These may be even geopolitical strategies. Now it seems that the same logic has been extended to the RSS, and mind you, even the former Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Mukund Naravne, who has seconded Dattatreya Hosabale's comment. Sajjan Kumar, just quickly coming back to you, and I want to share with you a chronology of events. And that chronology is as follows. Is this statement just mere utterance, or perhaps a way to test waters amid the changing geopolitical landscape and Pakistan's role? We know that Pakistan, whether we may like it or not, is now looking at an elevated seat at the high table as the negotiator or the mediator between Iran and the United States amid a war, right? Thus getting international space. Number two, very recently, Mr. Dattatreya Hosabale reportedly went to the United States, and these statements come after that trip to the United States. So could this possibly be the US influencing perhaps a view in a section of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, and then eventually the central government? And third and most importantly, this is coming on the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor. And as you rightly mentioned, what the RSS says today becomes the policy tomorrow. So could this be a soft landing of a new government changed policy vis-a-vis Pakistan, articulated by the RSS and then later implemented by the government? Because they can't do it directly. There will be greater backlash.
See, as far as Pakistan question is concerned, we may have different, and we do have different line of approach within the establishment, within the experts, within government, within BJP, and that is natural and that is expected, right? What you call a dovish or a hawkish approach. But let me tell you, and we all know it, within RSS, if you go and talk to any RSS functionary, right, from middle to top functionaries, their personal conviction is completely hawkish towards Pakistan. They do not share, this line that there is a civil society in Pakistan and there can be civil society to civil society dialogue. They do believe in terms of conviction that these are all wastes of energy, and it gives, many of the overground operatives of the underground a chance who want to dislodge to chance to regrow. This is one. So therefore, I cannot believe that all of a sudden RSS has a faction which really has become sensitive towards the people to people or a dialogue as a method, being employed to improve relation with Pakistan. As a response, one can understand that there should be a hardline response, but along side by side, you explore other parallel channel. But RSS people do not share that conviction. Now, when a statement comes which doesn't gel with your conviction, it creates a lot of space for speculation. And as you mentioned, his recent visit to US is one factor that will be linked to this statement. One cannot avoid that. Maybe because RSS by temperament is not anti-US, and they are in touch with lots many back channel communication. So this may be one of the factors which may have influenced him to come up with, because I cannot believe and none can believe that Dattatreya Hosabale would be so casual to give a statement on such a serious issue, that too on the first anniversary of Operation Sindoor, which doesn't go in sync with the current establishment line, and which also, mind it, doesn't go in sync with the popular sentiment of the society which veers towards BJP, right? So therefore, one needs to pause what could be the determinant of such. One thing that is sure, that personally Dattatreya Hosabale, like majority of the Swayamsevak, doesn't share the conviction that Pakistan and India relation can be improved via diplomacy. BJP can have that divide. RSS doesn't seem to have that divide, and therefore this statement is a bit surprising. Maybe something may have happened, but this is not a statement which is coming from person with a sense of conviction on Pakistan.
No, you've said that on two occasions, Mr. Sajjan Kumar, but before I go to Nikhil Jain, I just want to draw your attention to how the RSS is no stranger to commenting on foreign policy or having opinion on foreign policy. You see, it's another thing that anyone can have opinion on anything, but RSS is more structured in its opinion on foreign policy. right from the Hedgewar days or Golwalkar days, commenting on the division, commenting on the Portuguese, considering China as a threat way back in the 1950s, supporting Israel, and this is way back between 1940 and 1973. This was a consistent opinion of the RSS. Then, just want to tell you, its support for Pokhran 2, it being a little concerned about the Lahore bus trip and the Agra summit, right? And then now the Modi Bhagwat years since 2014, where you have seen great consistency in foreign policy views of the Prime Minister versus the foreign policy views of the RSS, whether it is diaspora diplomacy, Israel, Indo-Pacific Act East, Pakistan, China, global outreach, all these points have been consistent. But for this one moment where, at least on the face of it, Mr. Nikhil Jain, it appears that there is a difference. And that is why I ask you this question. Is there really a difference, or is this just soft landing of an idea to create some talking points among an ecosystem which you have so nurtured to become anti-Pakistan, that now you want to slowly plant this seed of conversation that it's okay to talk, yeah?
Sanket, I would argue that the RSS's position is not necessarily anti-China, it's not necessarily anti-Pakistan, but perhaps it is anti-Muslim and the pro-US Israel lobby. And I have reasons for saying that. If you look at India's defense imports from 2007 to 12, they were 3% from the US. Now it is at 13%. US has traditionally been an enemy of China, at least since the 1950s, and that is a position that the RSS has continued to maintain. We all know that India's relations with Israel really started flourishing during the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, which was the first government heavily influenced by the RSS. And now that you look at the fact that the US has a certain plan for the South Asian region, a plan where the US has more intervention and more direct, interference than it did before. The US is going around telling India what to do, and India is happily doing it. And it's not just Prime Minister Modi and the BJP I can take this jibe at, it is also the RSS. Let's not forget that a couple of weeks ago you had Ram Madhav, one again a very senior functionary of the RSS, going to the US and at an international stage saying that, what do you guys want more from us? We have done everything that you said. You said buy oil from Russia, we bought oil from Russia. You said stop buying oil from Russia, we stopped buying oil from Russia. Now the point is, in the entire matrix of the RSS's ideology, I can understand you being anti-Pakistan. Perhaps I can even understand you being anti-China. What is the metric and logic behind being anti-Russia? There is none. Yet the government of India chose to rely, under Prime Minister Modi, chose to rely to a greater degree on the Americans than the Russians. We reduced our defense imports from Russia. We were buying oil from Russia despite sanctions from the US, but let's not forget that the External Affairs Minister publicly had stated that it was actually the Americans who had nudged us behind the curtains to buy oil from Russia. So we were buying it. The moment that nudging goes away and they officially tell you to stop buying oil from Russia, you stop buying oil from Russia. Now Ram Madhav goes and says this. Now Mr. Dattatreya Hosabale goes to the US and he has a different view on how we should be dealing with Pakistan. We all know that Donald Trump doesn't really want war in this region. He wants to reserve perhaps the war for Israel and Middle East and the other regions. And what Donald Trump is saying, the RSS, the government of India, Prime Minister Modi, all of them are parroting in one way or the other. So as an Indian citizen, it looks very fishy to me that first of all, an organization that is not registered, that has no real formal existence in a certain manner, has such heavy influence on the government of India, and then that organization has such an inconsistent view on such an important matter of foreign policy and national security. And honestly, one more thing, it's quite weird. Why is General Naravne stepping into it now? It's not that the idea of dialogue with Pakistan has been mooted earlier, but why is it that General Naravne feels the need only to talk about it when
perhaps he wants
when
his
the
book
RSS
released.
number two? I don't know. That's just another point.
Yeah, so Mr. Sajjan Kumar, just quickly coming back to you, and this is my final, and this is being spoken about a lot, and this is going to be my final question to both of you. Perhaps I should have led with this. Mr. Sajjan Kumar, now what will be said of all those people who were so hell-bent on labeling anyone even remotely suggesting dialogue as anti-national. Anti-national. UAPA, go to Pakistan, be thrown out of this country. Now what? Is Mr. Hosabale anti-national? Is he anti-India? Can terror and talks not go together?
No, Sanket, we all know, I mean, the political rhetoric, and now the system is facing some internal crack also, be it the matter of UGC regulation, be it the matter of cricket diplomacy with Pakistan. You find that within what you call the entire narrative synchronization that BJP since 2014 used to witness, you find more cracks. Yes, there is electoral unity, but beyond that, on the discourse, you find a lot of fracture. This is one. So therefore, already this domain of alternative viewpoints being considered as anti-national and something that is a matter of past. A section will keep on repeating it. But let me tell also, let's take an arc of post-independent journey. Late 1960s and 70s was the time wherein anyone associated with slight or accused of being peddling with right wing would be considered anti-national, anti-people, anti-democracy. Remember what happened to leaders like Morarji Desai, to lots many others, the syndicate within Congress, and likes of Arun Shourie being labeled as CIA agent. That was the time wherein now I think there has been a change of arc wherein society's bias has been against the left liberal discourse, and therefore it is easy to label the alternative viewpoint as anti-national. The time will come, it will pass, right? So therefore I am not someone who is much perturbed with this kind of a labeling. If you take the arc, there is a societal bias, there is a societal common sense which supersedes the previous common sense, and therefore it is the time wherein the right wing bias has acquired a centrist space also, and therefore anything that comes from the alternative viewpoint, but already we see the crack. So Dattatreya Hosabale is one of the symptom of that crack. And as I said, that despite everything, one, we connect the dot and contextualize it, his recent US visit, and then this statement which is not in sync with the current line of the government. And two, we go by the old, method of RSS, wherein they have never taken a categorical position and said that for X, RSS position is A, for Y, RSS position is B, that sort of a thing. Methodologically, they refuse to define what Hindutva is, unlike Savarkar. So you have to see right-wing discourse is a multi-dimensional discourse of many platforms, but for some reason, RSS is the only platform that survived and therefore has peddled its own version of right-wing. So tomorrow when you see Mohan Bhagwat, Dattatreya Hosabale, they all will come under attack, not only from left liberal and the opposition party. Wait to see that most of the acidic attack will be coming from the vitriolic faces of right-wing ideologues.
Yeah, so-called supporters. Yeah.
I mean, electoral unity.
Absolutely. Nikhil Jain, asking this question of you now. Where will all these people go? So will there be this vitriolic attack against Mr. Hosabale and now General Naravne as well, from the very same people who once sang praises?
So, Sanket, first of all, I do agree with Sajjan that the vitriolic figures from the right-wing ecosystem certainly are going to target perhaps the RSS number 2 and General Naravne as well.
They already are targeting.
Yeah.
I know. To be fair, Nikhil, to be fair, since morning, a fair number of... You see, that is the problem with those who have a tendency to abuse. Trolls only know trolling. So their idea will be trolling. Even their normal conversation will be troll-like. So to that extent, that has already begun. However, there is a sense of confusion as well. How do you attack your own?
Yeah, no, but I feel so far as the BJP, the main voices of the BJP, the spokespersons and the other BJP leaders are concerned, I think they will have no problems navigating through this maze because we see that they've mastered over the years the art of dictamy and hypocrisy. Let's just look at it from 5 days ago. If you talk of the 10th of May, it was a time when the BJP had not decided its chief minister for Assam and the Congress had not decided its chief minister for Kerala. Yet the BJP on every television debate went around and saying, "Oh, look at the Congress; they are so indecisive. There are so many days have passed, and the
Come
Congress has
on,
not
this
been
is an
able to
unfair
decide on the chief
comparison.
minister."
Everybody
Absolutely
knew
not.
who the chief minister of Assam is going to be. Nobody even
No, that-
now, at the time of the recording of this broadcast at 12:54 p.m. on Thursday, the 14th of May, knows who the chief minister of Kerala is going to be. So this is
No,
valid criticism. Anyway.
No, Sanket, I'm not taking away from whatever criticism you or anybody else may have for the Congress. I'm simply saying that at one hand, you are a political party who has not decided their chief minister for a given state, despite the fact that you went into the elections with an incumbent. On the same hand, you're targeting another political party for saying that you haven't decided either. My point is not whether the Congress is smart or not, the BJP is smart or not. My point is simply that when it comes to the BJP ecosystem's voices, they love the art of hypocrisy. They can call you an anti-national for supporting the caste census, and right in the next breath say, "Oh, caste census is the need of the hour." They can say that reservation, there is nothing called as jati, and then right in the next breath tell you, "Oh, I have 20 OBC ministers, I have 10 Dalit ministers," and so on and so forth. So I don't think the BJP ecosystem will have problems navigating around this. They are going to continue calling voices from the Congress ecosystem as anti-national for wanting to engage in dialogue with Pakistan. But when it comes to the RSS number two saying that, they will say, "Oh, Sar Sanchalak ko, sorry, RSS ko to ye bolna padta hai." There is this image that the people have about RSS that they are anti-Muslim and anti-Pakistan. Therefore, in order to soften that image, they need to say that. They will have all sorts of crafty explanations. And lastly, just to disagree with on fact with Sajjan, it's not that being right wing was seen as anti-national during the Congress era. Let's not forget that Morarji Desai was seen as a right wing figure, Sardar Patel was seen as a right wing figure, Rajendra Prasad was seen as a right wing figure, and Rajaji was seen as right wing figures. And who are these people? The first president of India, the first deputy prime minister of India, one of the very important home ministers of India, and another deputy prime minister of India. So I don't think that being right wing was anti-national. Atal Bihari Vajpayee continued to be in the parliament while Jawaharlal Nehru was the prime minister. Even during the 62 war with China, Atal Bihari Vajpayee questioned the prime minister on the floor of the parliament, and the prime minister answered. The prime minister never said that Atal Bihari Vajpayee was anti-national. So I disagree with that
No.
characterization.
Just. It was. You are confusing Nehruvian phase with Indira Gandhi phase. I said late 60s and 70s. It was a method, to label your own within the party, accuse them of being right wing, and then CIA agent, and then anti-poor, and then anti-people. So that was a method. So I am saying that I am not much perturbed with these accusations.
Okay. Before we also reach the Nehru Kal of conversation, I think it is better to end this conversation here. It'll be very interesting to see whether this articulation by the RSS is going to dictate a change in India's foreign policy vis-a-vis Pakistan, or is this just an utterance which will fade away with a headline or two? Thank you very much, Sajjan Kumar as well as Nikhil Jain, for joining us. Thank you.